Hello, everybody. Welcome to another happy hour with the Chamingers. How are we today? Cheers from the Chaminger family. For everyone who's watching this as a recording, I appreciate you. You're amazing. Stay amazing. But next time, try to squeeze it into your schedule so you can come interact with us live and come chat and share your stories and ask questions, because at the end of the day, that's what we love. We love interacting with you guys. We love chatting with you guys. And we love the fact that you're part of the Chaminger community. So as you guys join, please drop a comment, say hi. And again, for everyone who is tuning in, let me know if the music is too loud and how the sound is, because we've got some background music. Our Challenger playlist going again. Hello. We got Mamma Mia, first one here. I love it. Cheers. What are you guys drinking today? We're like, coffee. It's coffee time. Have you checked out the bloopers yet? Sorry, what made me think of that was the fact that listening to our blooper theme song in the background, and it's cool to know that we have this series where it just shows us in not our best moments, but we try to make a funny approach to it, because at the end of the day, that's what you got to do, right? You got to spin it positively, and you got to laugh at yourself. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. So, crazy thing just happened earlier today. Hello, Oscar Andres Santana Nunez. Do you speak English, Spanish, both? So, well, as I was saying, the crazy thing that happened today was we had scheduled to be a guest on another podcast or brand. And interestingly enough, it was a podcast that was hosted by another diplomat kid, which was insane to me, because I haven't met pretty much anybody that grew up as a diplomat that moved every few years after we stopped living with my dad. So his parents were both Americans, but they were assigned to more so like Europe and Africa, like those areas, like Ethiopia and things like that. So it was super fascinating to be able to be a guest on there and get interviewed and share my perspectives and just hear a lot of the similarities. It was actually really cool to finally be able to talk to someone that understood a lot of the things that I talk about and I preach and I say were challenging and not so challenging, and the leg up and the benefits of traveling and all this stuff. It was super interesting. It was super interesting. So once that episode is released and they edit it, we will definitely link it and mention it. But this is a way for us to cross promote and advertise and grow, get their audience, and they can get exposed to me. But I think I'm going to definitely stay in touch, and I'm going to request that he comes on and does interview episode on our social wisdom series where we interview other people, because I think it's going to be a fascinating conversation since we both have the same background. Perfect. Well, welcome. Puedo hablar español, pero ustedes saben que la mayoría de la gente que va a ver esto entiende inglés más que español. Entonces, puedo hacer unas pequeñas partes hablando español, pero qué gusto que estás aquí, que ustedes están apoyando, viendo, disfrutando. Y si tienen preguntas o algo que quieren decir, adelante, por favor. Bienvenido a Chaminger. So, we're gonna wait a few more minutes and then we're gonna start sharing some of the stories that I had promised. And I don't know if I can share them anymore since my parents and family are watching. No, they're harmless, but they're very interesting. Let's put it that way. They are definitely not your typical story, but again, I'm not your typical person. Thank you, Stephanie. So, really quick for everyone tuning in, if you aren't aware or you're watching this later, we are doing a giveaway for an Amazon gift card to promote our brand and our podcast, increase awareness. We have what we call secret code that if you watch this and you hear and you interact with us and listen to it, you can put it in for some extra chance to win the gift card. So the code, and I'm going to type it here in a second, but it's Happy Chaminger Hour. So let's type that in really quick. A little up and personal. Happy Chaminger Hour. There we go. So, giveaways are something that I had never really thought about or used before starting this podcast. And essentially, the way it works is that when you do a giveaway, obviously, like a lot of people join for just the gift, right? Whatever they're trying to get. But you make it a little more challenging so that they have a reason to check out your actual content, your episodes, your Facebook page, your YouTube, your website, and you make them wait a little bit, or you make them answer a question, or you just make them explore. And not everyone is going to become a loyal follower or a listener, but many people who watch and check it out are like, oh, wow, that actually was interesting. That resonated with me. I would want to know more. So that's the whole approach. That's the reason why we're doing what we're doing. But you know, it's hard work to grow something from zero. You know. So. So I highly recommend that you check out obviously all our episodes. Check out This is Chaminger on YouTube. That's our trailer for the brand and the podcast. But I live in Colorado now with my fiance. Da-da, for everyone who didn't know. Spoilers. But I live in Colorado. And I'm half Mexican, half German. But I was born in Seattle, Washington. So I associate more so with the American culture, lifestyle, sorry, with American lifestyle. But my culture and my heart is always going to be Mexico, Germany. And because we grew up, my dad was a Mexican ambassador. It meant that we traveled every 2 to 3 to 4 years to a new country. So since we constantly had to start over and over and over again, what that meant was we lived in, you know, South America, Guatemala, Ecuador, places like that. So we had an opportunity to practice our Spanish, and obviously with my dad and my family. So that's why I kept Spanish, even though it's definitely lost a little bit of the fluency. So today, I want to talk about a famous line that probably everyone who knows me decently has heard me say. And that's the phrase, arriba, abajo, al centro, pa dentro, salud. So story time about this. And again, this relates to the hashtag and the theme of today's stream, which is do it for the story. But there's something to be said about people hesitating to do something that they've always wanted to do because, oh, well, what if it goes wrong? Or what if people laugh at me? Or who knows what, right? So the concept of do it for the story is essentially something that I used back when I wasn't as confident and secure in myself, that I was like, hey, regardless of what happens, there is going to be a really cool story to be shared after. And I can tell my friends, I can tell my family, but if you view it as like, hey, should I do this? Well, if I do it, it's going to be a cool story. Then it makes things a lot easier to handle. So that's, if I ever have any hesitance or doubt, I just say to myself, do it for the story. So one of the things that I've noticed growing up was that a lot of people struggled with the concept of, like socializing with strangers. They get awkward, they get worried, they get nervous. So I knew that obviously alcohol helps a lot. It makes people relax, makes people more open, not worry so much about insecurity and doubts. Get out of their own head. So I had gone to this is the story, the origin story of it, to Puerto Vallarta to visit my family there, my aunt and uncle, and I was there with my parents. And I remember that we went to this bar, and it was, I had some friends from the United States there as well, so there were some gringos, and I didn't really drink a lot at that time. I mean, I was pretty young still. So I remember that this bar owner, we went to this random bar, and my uncle Victor met this guy, this bar owner, and his name was Victor as well. And he comes in, he's like, Tocayo! That's what you say in Mexico, they have the same name. And he showed insane hospitality. He got everyone, and it was like the friends, myself, my Uncle Victor, my dad, and maybe like one or two other people I forget. It was like 7, 8 people. And he gave us all a shot for free from his restaurant, his bar. And he taught us especially the gringos, and I hadn't heard it yet, the arriba abajo. And I was like, that is just so fascinating. And the fact that these Americans were willing to embrace it and do it, like, he really appreciated that. Like, it meant a lot that, because I know that's a big thing. Most Americans just don't want to embrace Mexican culture. So I started realizing how powerful that was. So what I would do is, I realized I could use that whenever I go out, socializing at parties. I'd be like, hey man, do you guys know about the Mexican cheers? And people would be instantly intrigued. They're like, no, well, what's that? And I'm like, well, you just tell a brief story behind it, because when you tell a story, it gives people something to relate to. So in this case, I'd be like, well, learn this, and you go to Mexico, and you can get a free shot. And now you've already intrigued everyone else, even if they were a non-believer. So the story was that as long as you just embrace Mexican culture and you do this, you can convince anyone to Mexico to get you a free shot, which I don't know if it's true, but they'll definitely appreciate that the Americans can do it. So I would just be like, repeat after me. Arriba, abajo, al centro, pa dentro, salud. And, I would get big groups of people to not only do a shot, even if they didn't like shots, but like, okay, for Mexican cheers. And they'd do it, and people are like yelling it and everything like that. And it's just a great time. And people remember it. Like, people truly remember it. And it's just something different. It's something fun. It's a bonding activity. And I would say it's really a hack. Like it's not even fair, the after effects of it, because one, now you're getting everyone to drink and loosen up, because most people hesitate to drink if they're, or like you socialize. A shot will have a much more larger impact than like a beer. And then this is where it gets really interesting. Most people, I would love to hear people's thoughts on this, would not interact with someone like a stranger at a party that they don't really know unless they've like introduced or got introduced to them. They won't just go up to them like, "Hey, how you doing today? I like your shoes. What's your name?" So, by me getting a group of, let's say, 10, 15 people together at a party, getting them all to grab a shot, and then getting them all to cheers, all the people who did it now have a bonding community event to talk about. They all did the same thing. They can all relate. And now they feel like they could talk. Like, if that guy wants to talk to a girl, now he can be like, "Oh, yeah. Well, hey," he's like, "Well, what did you think about that?" So now they have the in. They're part of the same community. They did the same thing. It's an icebreaker, whatever you want to call it. But it's so crazy how just by doing that arriba abajo with people, it changes everything. And now everyone who didn't do it was paying attention, because everyone's like yelling. There's like 10 people grouped up together. So they're all going to be like, "Well, what was that?" Some people might think that's weird. Some people might think it's cool and that they should have joined in. But either way, it completely now changed the party just because of that. People who never would have drank. People got together who never got together. And it completely altered that social gathering. You guys now just got one of my tricks. Any thoughts? Commentary? I know that was a lot, but curious to hear or see if anyone can relate, or is it surprising? Whew. Don't be shy, guys. Don't be scared. Mom, did you know that full story? For anyone tuning in right now, the secret code for today's live stream is Happy Chaminger Hour. If you scroll up in chat, we typed it out earlier, but it's just the word happy, Chaminger, and the word hour. Make sure you check it out. And for anyone who just tuned in or is joining us, you missed out on two stories. One about how just was a guest on another podcast where I met up with a fellow diplomat kid, which is crazy because I've never talked to another diplomat kid. And just then being able to actually understand my life and relate is a game changer. Like, that's crazy to think that someone also lived a similar life of living in so many different countries. And then two, I shared my infamous story of arriba, abajo, pa dentro, al centro. Or sorry, pa dentro. I can't even talk. Al centro, pa dentro. The alcohol has kicked in already, guys. And why that's so powerful in a party situation, to get people gathered and having fun and enjoying themselves and all that stuff. It's kind of crazy when you think that most people just feel like they can't interrupt strangers. But the next story I want to tell momentarily is the story of how I could successfully get a dance party going at any point, at any party. And one of the things that I always think about is, I think a lot of people were like surprised, for example, at my sister's wedding, when I had the opportunity to MC it, be the host, and kind of have the vibe of the party going. And a lot of people never would have thought I could do that, but it's just, Once you learn how to host and gather people and get them excited and get them feeling good, it's honestly quite easy, to be honest. Oh, oh yeah, you were there. Was it the one when we went to the other apartment, the park? But yeah, it's kind of crazy how powerful Arriba Bajo is for anyone who hasn't seen it or tuned in. Well, I'm glad you got to witness it because I think most people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure it means something or it's good," but once you actually see it in action, it's completely different. Um, so I want to talk about the getting people to dance at parties, and it's really using the concept. Hey, gorgeous, Stephanie. Stephanie. Sorry, that a spider. Sorry, guys. We're under attack by spiders and insects. Um, so getting people to dance at parties is really a concept of understanding why people don't do something. So it really is like the feeling of being watched. Now, when you have to change that feeling, and how do you change that feeling? You need 2 to 3 people. You need to convince 2 to 3 people, but two should be enough if you're going up there and dancing as well. So what do I mean by that? So I just think back to my last birthday party that I hosted, and it's always hard to get people to dance. It's easy with a little drinking at first, and you know you can get it eventually, but you have to do a dance that everyone can do, or you have to invite people up to do it. So my go-to was this Mexican song called El Mariachi Loco. It has very easy steps, and it's the same reason why, like in the United States, you could do like Con and I joke, or those ones that are like two to the right, two to the left. A song that everyone can kind of get behind, that's easy to follow, but you kind of have to like guide them, like hold the microphone, be up there, and do the dance, and tell other people how to do it. Because the hardest part is most people just don't know how to dance, or at least they don't think they do. So you guide them, they'll do it. Now, if 2 other people have done it, it validates that it's okay to dance. It's okay to go up there. It's okay to be silly and have fun. The most important person is the second and third person, because the second person validates the first person's actions and the third person validates the second. So it's basically now a majority. So what you're going to notice is with dance parties or parties in general is once you have 2 to 3 people, more people are going to come. Once more people come, another person's going to come, and so forth and so forth. And once you have a lot of people, it's going to be a full dance floor. And it's just crazy. And it all starts with those 3 people, because human psychology says that it's all about we want to do what the majority says, or we believe in the majority. That's why most governments work the way they do. So think about, I mean, there's studies on this. You can research this, Google it afterwards, but there's studies that like in a controlled environment, psychologists tested like 4 people. 3 people were in on the test, one person wasn't. And they would say, okay, tell us which is the longest line. Like they had 3 lines, A, B, and C. One was, the size of my finger, one was this long, and the other one was that long. And the first 2 tests, they all said that the longest one was the longest one, so C. Then they changed it, and 3 of the people said confidently, no doubt, that the longest line was B. Now, that fourth person who wasn't in on the test said that B. They actually changed their answer. They agreed with the other people, because there's no way that 75% of the people could be wrong, right? That's not possible. The majority cannot be wrong. That's just how we think. So Once you realize that, that's actually kind of crazy because I mean, that's how a lot of people get manipulated, but that's a topic for another time. But that's how you can get people to dance. You have to validate the majority that it's okay to get people up there. And that's kind of why I would do what I would do is I'd invite people up. I would dance. I would coach people basically on how to do it. And then once a few people did it, I knew there's some people that I could probably convince. So I would talk to them one on one beforehand. You get 2 to 3 people up there, it's over. And I just think back to, I don't know if I told you this, mom and dad, but at the last birthday party, it was such a hit. Like we had everyone dancing. So many people came. People started inviting their friends because obviously it was a lit party that it got to the point where there's probably like 50, 60 strangers that showed up after the fact that I had never met. And it was full house. The party went long. The DJ stayed an extra 2 to 3 hours. Didn't charge me a dime for all those extra hours. And we're talking like they would normally charge like maybe $150 an hour. Um, yeah, it got insane. I mean, it was crazy how just from at the beginning, no one wanted to dance, and I got like 3 4 people do that where everyone was there. And that's just something that I want to show people. Like literally any party I go to, I do the same approach and it always works. Always. Doesn't matter. There's some that are going to be more resistant, but it's pure basic human psychology and understanding why people do what they do. And once you start going down that route, it's a little scary because you understand people so well that you can kind of make sure to do things to get your desired result. But I mean, to have fun at a party and get everyone laughing and having a great time, I think it's worth it. What are your thoughts on that? That's a crazy story. So I'm curious to hear what people think. But that's one of my mottos: do it for story, have great parties, get people together, get people relaxed, having fun. What do you think about that? I remember Stephanie thought I was insane. She's like, "Oh my goodness." Well, everyone's pretty quiet, which is okay, but I'd love, love, love to hear your guys' commentary, your thoughts. If you have any, it's all appreciated. It's all desired and wanted, and don't feel shy. People have already commented, and if it feels better, you can private message us instead on one of our social media platforms if you don't want to put the comment for everyone to see. I do have one other crazy story that I want to share, but you have a talent for that. Well, Mom, I'm curious. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but does it does it surprise you, like seeing it in action? Because I know, like for example, I did it at my sister's wedding and on New Year's and stuff like that. Like seeing me handle these situations like that, especially I know you didn't weren't there for like a lot of the parties back in the day, like in Seattle that I did and all this stuff, but like how how does it feel seeing like that? I guess just I would be very curious. Gracias, papa. Well, I'm glad that you guys respect it and like it, and really, I guess another part where this brings me to is one of the opportunities that I had to practice my public speaking was at like parties or events like this, I would always use the opportunity to like do a little gathering and share something or tell a story. And the reason behind that was you get better by practicing and doing and repeating. So I just like remember like if it was a farewell party or if it was like a wedding or something like that. I remember like I got invited to a random wedding and I didn't even know the people pretty much at all. Like I might have just known like um the groom and the wife and no one else. And I like made a speech and I'd only known them for like a few months. And like people were like, "Wow, that was the best speech." And I'm like, "That's just really cool to hear." But I remember the first time that I was doing like my talks and speeches at some of those like gatherings, I'm just like, "Oh my goodness." I would use a lot of those filler words like and and right and all that stuff and but being able to constantly do it and repeat it gave me that opportunity to improve my skill set. And I think that's what more people need to do, especially in a low stakes environment. I mean, if it's just a random party at the Seattle rooftop, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Half the people are drunk. So you're not gonna, no one's gonna remember anything anyway. But it really, it's interesting to know that there are benefits to that level of socialization, but I think a lot of people just don't do it. If they do party, they are just drinking a lot and not honing their skill sets. And I always just wanted to improve certain things. I don't know why, but that was always my thing. So, well, let's get to the final crazy story that I had pre-planned and wanted to talk about. And it's the story of how this also happened at my last birthday party. I'm not sure if I told my family or not. So it could be a surprise for them. So at that party, when we were planning the party, we were like, okay, let's get some live music, a DJ, let's have barbecue catering, let's have these kind of drinks, let's do it upstairs at the rooftop, and all these things. And you're planning the setup. And the person who actually encouraged me to do it for the story, and this is why I think it's really important to find someone that like pushes you and understands you and supports you, was Stephanie. She was like, why don't you get everyone to do it? And I'm like, I don't know, that's a lot. And what I mean by do it, so in America, I'm not sure if in Mexico it's like this. I think it's mostly you just use limes. But after you do like a shot of alcohol, you normally chase it with something. So in the United States, it's like pineapple juice or pickle juice or something of that extent. And it's a way to reduce the harshness of the flavor of the burn or whatever. And in Mexico, you usually just do salt and un poco de limon. So back in my Seattle days when I did a lot more of those, I quickly realized that there was a lot of things that actually were really good chasers that masked the flavor, that made it a lot easier to do like shots or drink alcohol or anything of that sort. So I had discovered, started almost as a joke, but it was like what was available because like let's say you are having a few drinks before you go out with friends. Because of my German heritage, I was always a big fan of jam and ham. You just eat a lot of jam in Germany. You have a lot of jam with like your breakfast, your bread, and then ham was just something that we again in Germany we had a lot of. So what ended up happening was back in Seattle, I started as a joke, but I would do a shot and I'm like, okay, well, I don't have any pineapple juice, I don't have any pickle juice, but there's some jam or there's some ham. And what I found was that it actually did a really good job of absorbing like that burn or that like feeling after you do like a shot of tequila or vodka. And that was crazy. I mean, I thought I liked it, but then I had other people try it and they're like, "Oh my god, why does this work? Like why does ham or jam actually work?" Because again, everyone thought I was weird for even suggesting it because it's just not normal. But they tried it and then they liked it. What up, hung? So, the story is Stephanie encouraged me to actually get a group of people at my last birthday party to do a ham and jam chaser. And I was like, well, let's see if this happens. So we had prepared. I mean, I invited like maybe 30, 40 people, but there was way more. So we had like prepared like 50 shots of either vodka or tequila. They could choose. And then everyone got one in a little cup. And then after that, we came around and they're like, okay, we were gonna do ham, but we were like, oh, what do we just give them a slice? So we got them a big container of a jar of jam and a plastic spoon, and we're like, okay, grab some jam. And everyone's just like, well, what's happening? So then I, get the microphone and start talking in front of everyone and say, okay, so this is essentially how it's gonna work. We're gonna do the arriba, abajo, al centro, pa dentro, which I shared before earlier in the stream, but after that, you're going to chase it with the jam. And I told everyone, hey, so this is a German Mexican tradition. And I just shared it with confidence, conviction. And I told everyone, like, this is something that you do because in Germany, they love their jam. And in Mexico, it's all about like the tequila shots. So we combine it. And then this is how you drink tequila or vodka in certain areas. And I had the story. I did the Mexican cheers, the arriba abajo, and literally, and there was like 30 people that I had never met before, and about 25, 30 that I had known. Everyone did the shot, and everyone chased it with jam. And afterwards, people were like, "Oh my god, that was the coolest thing ever! This is insane!" I'm like, "Why does it work? That was so cool." Some people are like, "Wow, that was really weird," but it actually tasted really good. And I had people come up like this Venezuelan friend of mine called Vicente. He came up to me like he had just arrived a little before that, and he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "This, what's crazy? Someone told me that I missed this Mexican tradition or like German Mexican tradition where we chase tequila shots with jam." And it's like, what? And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like people were actually going to other people that missed it and arrived and were telling people that that is a tradition from Mexico or in Germany. Hello, blank. So that blew my mind. But it goes to show you, you have a good story, you say it with confidence, conviction, and it actually works. People just need to overcome that hesitancy, that like doubt, that fear of trying something new. And now they can literally say, now they can go anywhere and tell the story and be like, hey guys, you wouldn't believe the party I went to last month. We literally chased a tequila shot with jam. You say that to anyone, everyone's gonna be like, wait, what? That's crazy. And imagine if you told someone, hey, could you convince 50 people to chase a tequila shot with jam? Most people would say no. And it's kind of mind blowing how that works. But everyone loved it. And then right after that, I mean, I also feel like I did a little speech before that, just kind of sharing like, hey, we're in COVID and everyone needs to remember that life's hard, change is hard, but keep marching on, stick close to the people who support you and boost you up and enjoy. But yeah, that's the story how I got like 50, 60 people to all drink and follow it up with jam. Any thoughts on that insane story? Yo, by the way, Hung, since I know you're here or you popped in momentarily or briefly, Elena shot me a message saying, "Hey, are you coming to Hung's birthday party?" Oh, sorry. I hope it's not a surprise. I would feel so bad if it's a surprise birthday party and you didn't know about it. But I just ruined the surprise if I did. Um, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, I didn't even know it was happening." So, um, yeah, I can't make it, especially not last minute. It's hard to coordinate now with everything else that's going on. But uh, I'd be down to FaceTime and cheers with you, drink a Corona. So let me know, man. Hello, crazy stories. Well, as you guys can tell, um, social skills, hanging around and controlling a crowd and people, it's actually learnable. Like they're legitimate skills. And I think that's something that is so misunderstood. People are like, oh, well, yeah, there's no way that I could do this or do that. But they've never like practiced, they've never studied it, they've never tried to learn it, they've never understood why it works and why it doesn't. Like I guarantee you, the majority of the people that were at most of the parties that I've been to, but like my birthday party, had no idea why it was such a hit. Like I remember the DJ came up to me, he's like, "Man, I've never had such a good response. I've never had people all dancing and hanging out. Like this is amazing." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, because you have to get people involved and get the courage to do so, and hang out with other people and have the confidence to dance." And I mean, not everyone is as crazy as I am, and a lot of my Mexican family where they just all love dancing. Most people are very insecure about that, so that's just really my takeaway is, don't worry about what's going to happen or how you're going to look. Try it out, do it, and then you can always just blame Fabian and Chaminger and be like, "Hey, I did it for the story. Sorry, guys." And if it's a good story, that's amazing. And if it's not so good, well, you can like, can you? I'm going to tell you the story of when I tried to convince 12 of my friends to chase their tequila shots with jam, and no one did it. And it was super awkward, and everyone looked at me like I was an alien. And but then you still have a story to share about that, and people are gonna be like, "Wait, what? You try to convince people?" And so forth and so forth. But as you guys can tell, this is once again another passion of mine, and it's all about social skills and understanding people and the psychology behind people and being able to read people and understand people and do that stuff. And I feel like I've done it so for so many years now that I just truly just don't care anymore. And like, I just think back to our Mexico vacation that we just came back from, Playa del Carmen. And, I'm just doing, well, we, Stephanie, and I, but especially me, just doing crazy stuff everywhere at the resort. And, I'm sure some of the workers and other very fancy, stuck up, sophisticated tourists were like, "Who are these crazy people?" But, we had a good time. We had fun. And we have so many stories to share about that trip. Um, we were going to save it for another coffee stream, but I'm going to share this one just because I think it's absolutely hilarious. And so we were at the Mexican resort. It was the Valentine, and they had given to some people, I guess, or certain rooms, floaties. So basically, so you can float on it while you're in the pool. And we were just tanning, hanging out, having our drinks, and I just looked over and told Stephanie, I was like, "You see those two floaties right there? Whoever was sitting like 3 seats over left them." I'm like, "Yeah, there's another group of people nearby, but let's just take them and just use them, you know?" And I remember when right as we were gonna grab them, I looked at that group of people and was like, "Hey guys, is this yours? Are you guys using it?" Like, "No, no, 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 go ahead." And we just grabbed it, and we were chilling in that flotation device, and we were just like rafting away with our arms while in there. Obviously, we had a lot to drink already, and it had like a cup holder, and we had our drink in there. But then we used the flotation device all the way to the swim up pool bar, grabbed a drink, and then we went back. And I remember the crowd that was there where we asked about the flotation device. They're like, "Oh my god, we wish we would have taken it now. Like, you guys look like you're having so much fun." And then they started like holding us there because we were on it. We really couldn't control it, like because there was a little bit of like waves or something. And they just wanted to talk to us. And I'm just like, I kind of want to leave. Like, can you let go of my flotation device? And just like that, we were starting to socialize and we did our thing. But the takeaway from that story is we just did our own thing. And we weren't worried what these people were going to say or what these people were going to say. What's the worst that's going to happen? A family member from that owned that flotation device comes back and is like, "Hey, these were ours." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. Well, you can have them now." And that's it. And nobody got hurt. Nothing bad happened. And now there's not only a story, but I mean, the end of the story was we kept drinking and we were just literally swimming across the entire pool on our flotation device that we just took from people. But, it's just living in the moment, enjoying it, and not putting too much weight into what other people are going to say. Because at the end of the day, they wish that they were having as much fun as you. And, it takes a while to get to this mindset. It took me a long, 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 long time to have this mental clarity and confidence and self-esteem. But this is literally why we are doing this Chaminger thing and are constantly preaching and posting about it and communicating. And we know it's going to take some time to grow, but, it's so interesting that so many people I know are watching and listening and are aware of it, but they're not liking it. They're not commenting. They're not asking questions. And my hunch is the reason why is most people are afraid to admit that they have like an insecurity or they feel like they need this because for some reason it's like taboo that, oh, you're not already perfect or you don't know everything. And I'm listening to this 29-year-old guy and I'm 45 and working at a big medical software sales company and I need his advice. Yeah, most people won't have the balls to admit that. So I just think it's super interesting that I know because a lot of people either I've messaged or they've messaged me and they're like, "Yeah, man, so I've seen your clips and your episodes." I'm like, "Well, why aren't you liking it? Well, why aren't you commenting? Why aren't you sharing it?" And they're like, "Oh, well, you know." I'm like, I don't know. And it's just super fascinating to me to see. But I hope that over time, people start gaining the confidence and the comfort and the just ignoring all that noise from everyone else because it really is so liberating once you don't put as much weight or any weight into what other people are going to say. So, curious to know if did that resonate with anyone? What do you guys think? Does this come off too strong? It's definitely a very delicate topic. I know that people need to hear it a lot because the first time you hear it, it's almost like if it resonates, you almost feel like you're getting called out. Like someone is saying, "Hey, you're not good enough," or "You're not this," but it's not. Like, once you can admit it to yourself, like, hey, I care too much what people think, or I don't take risks, or I won't do things for the story, or I won't, it just opens it up. Once you identify it and acknowledge it, you are just now free to talk about it. And I am one of the biggest things that I'm going to preach every single episode, every single stream is that honesty and that transparency is absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. And I wish more families, more friend groups would open up and be willing to talk about this stuff, because it's really actually not that scary once you do. The hardest part is starting. But ever since I've undergone these mindset changes and took a lot of work and time, it has literally changed my life 1,000 times for the better. And my hope, our hope of doing this Chaminger thing is giving that to other people. Obviously, down the road, we are in the works of creating and finalizing some monetization plans and sponsorships and courses and ebooks and a lot of other things. But at the end of the day, this stream, our podcast, those pieces are still going to be available to everyone. It's just if you want more, you can pay for it. But you should be able to learn a lot just from the information in our stories, and they should be able to resonate. And it's just really exciting for me to share this, because this is something that I know changed my life, and I hope that it can change yours. So I know people have been pretty quiet this stream, but I love the fact that some people tuned in, and I know a lot of people are watching it, the recording, instead of tuning in live. And that's okay, because again, it's middle of the day, and I know we're still growing, and it's a big ask to say, hey, join me for an hour of your time. I am not delusional. I know that time is very valuable. So everyone who does tune in and join us for these live streams, it means the world to us, because we do it for you, we do it for others, and it's cool to see that people are slowly starting to appreciate it, and that's all you want, and I again will just say, as for the final statements, I think it's super fascinating. It's something that I'm going to keep an eye on. But I appreciate everyone who has been supportive and liking and commenting. But the people who are watching and who are listening, but they're doing so in secret. If you're hearing this right now, yep, I'm calling you out. My question to you is why? Why are you not willing or able to show your support publicly? And if it's because the message isn't good enough, then I would find that fascinating, and I would hope that you can share that feedback. But I want to say it's something else. And that's when things get really interesting, when people aren't doing something or are afraid to show something that they're interested in. So, everyone else, appreciate you guys. You are awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I think we're going to finish a little earlier than usual, just because that was all the stories that I had prepared for today's stream. Let me know what you guys thought. Was it... I know it's kind of crazy hearing some of my techniques and some of my stories, but I think it was I think it could be very valuable for a lot of people to hear. And I think the best part is you can learn to host a party. I have to thank my family for it. I mean, seeing all the diplomatic events that we'd go to and host, and my mom was a great host, my dad was a great host, and like even just doing like karaoke with foreign diplomats, because everyone loves singing, especially after lots of drinks, and just seeing how it works and how everyone had a great time. It's just, okay, I need to do more of that. And that for me was powerful. Does anyone have any questions before I sign off for today? If not, we appreciate again that you tuned in and had a drink, even if it was coffee, water, or anything. I wonder if. Appreciate it, man. Take care. That's what we need. Make sure you share it with your friends, share it with your family. Let other people know about it. If you love it, other people need to hear about it. And because if it resonates with you, I'm sure it's going to resonate with someone else. And, you know, we would love to have you on next time. If you have a microphone or a camera, join us. Let's do it. Let us know if you're interested. We would love to have a chat with someone live as well and have the opportunity to just have conversation. Podemos conversar. Puedes ser parte del stream y puedes hablar y hacer preguntas y compartir tu conocimiento y tu perspectiva. Every time I talk in Spanish, I realize I need to practice it more because some words just I'm like, oh my. All right, guys. Well, I think the liquor has kicked in for a lot of people, so everyone's kind of quiet. I appreciate you. This was a great happy hour stream. I hope the stories resonated, and please, 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 if you haven't already, make sure to follow us on our social medias. Subscribe to the YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast. We are going to have 2 new episodes coming up. A new My 3 Cents on Monday. A new Real Talk with my brother on Tuesday. And actually, we got a little surprise coming. We are going to have our very first episode of Social Wisdom, which is the podcast show where we interview a guest to share their experiences and their wisdom and their insight and maybe their struggles. And that is going to be released on Wednesday. So next week, you're going to not only get an extra episode, we're also going to be doing our live streams as well. Make sure you check it out. You don't want to miss it. There's some exciting stuff coming up. And with that, be you, be free, stay amazing. Chaminger out.